What you're looking at is the insides of a transformer. Now here's the former or spool of wire that goes inside. Now I have a habit of taking transformers apart over the years. I must have done at least 500, and I saved this. And this has rolls, it is basically a roll of copper wire, different sizes. And I'll save this, and whenever I build a coil for shortwave radio or that, I'll have one of these open, and I'll measure with a micrometer and pick out the wire that's closest. Okay, so over the years I've done at least, I'll say 500 transformers just to get the wire. And then I used to take the wire sometimes to a scrap yard. But here, this is a typical E, and then where's an I? Here's the I's over here. Okay, if you ever taken one of these apart, but you can see the rust here, and this thing was bodged. This was on, actually, it's all rusted inside because this was part of a command radio, a bodged power supply, and I started taking it apart. I realized I probably could turn this transformer into one of this type, okay, for mounting in the chassis. And I dimensions all. This is the same clamshells that are used, and normally instead of coming out the side here, they come out two on the bottom. And this is the same transformer that's like used in a Hammond organ, a cheap Hammond organ or a cheap radio. And you can still buy these transformers. But I'm taking it apart, and then I went on eBay, and I was going to buy a transformer for building something, and I got sticker shock. Rusted ones like this are $30-something and up. Shipping on top of $30-something. So I had taken this apart, and I ended up pulling these pieces back out of the garbage. And then I started thinking to myself, some of the laminations have rust on them. How much would that affect the performance? And I went looking, and you got these bullshit stories. The rust causes the tone of the transformer to change. Person meaning the audio transformers. All kinds of shoot from the hip. Now, Wikipedia says that there's insulations between the laminations. And it's paper, mica, or varnish. Now, I've taken, I told you, about 500 of these apart. And this is always what I see inside. There's no varnish on here. Okay? There's varnish on the ends. When it's together, they varnish it. And that's to prevent it from vibrating and getting audio, getting hum. And so I keep looking. I'm going to keep looking. Somebody up there has to have the real information. And then one guy in one of the conferences says, they're all worried about eddy currents. That's why they want them insulated from each other. And you can see this one has, this is the end one, the first one, and it's got a little bit of varnish on it. And they're all worried about eddy currents. They don't understand what eddy currents are, but they parrot it. Eddy currents, eddy currents, And I'm going through the thing, and I said, someone has got reality. Okay, so I found one guy says, the laminations themselves take care of the eddy currents. And then everybody's jumped in. No. If they short out to each other, it's the same as having a solid block. I'm looking, I'm like, holy crap. And I keep looking at this thing, you know? And I find it. You find the guy that he probably doesn't want to even get involved in the group. And he says, there's an oxide. You can see it. There's oxide. And some of these, when you take them apart, almost look like blue looking. And the oxide is enough. It's conductive, the oxide, but it's enough resistance to kill the eddy currents, okay? And the fact that it's laminated. So when you take them apart, and then these guys, when you put it back together, dip each lamination in varnish, Yeah. And I've gone through all these messages, and I'm saying to myself, you know, I took a lot of these frickin' things apart. Now here, I bought over 20 of these. These are from the Electronic Barn. It's probably a 500 milliamp transformer, and it puts out, I think it put out some weird voltage like 16 volts. And I've used it in my power supplies, okay, my reverse power supplies to get high voltage, and it works okay. And I know I bought more than 20 of these things. They were $1.99 each. And every time I went to the barn, I bought a few. And I knock them apart just to get the copper wire. All right? And this here, when you look at it, it does look like maybe it's been painted. This one's been painted. Okay? It looks nice, got a name on it, or a pass mark. But I just wanted to show you, the transformers. Here's another one from a Bodged power supply. And you can't find out who made it. It's got a name on it. It's got a number. I reference it to someone else asking where it's made, and they're telling the guy that he read the name wrong. And it just goes on and on and on. See, you got so many people on the internet that just shoot from the hip. They sit in these conferences and they repeat what they've heard. Now, like I said, if you go to Wikipedia, they tell you the three insulations are paper, mica. Never seen that. Never ever. Mica, and it must be some type of special transformer, and varnish. Now, varnish, I think that's a misnomer too. I got a feeling that the ends are varnished. Oh, and then they always say, oh, the transformers, they're put in an oven and heated up, and then a vacuum chamber, and then they fill it with varnish and it pulls it into the laminations. Yeah, you got to see that stuff. They womanize transformers. You can see potting done like that. Some of the military stuff, yes, but not what the guy was asking about. And what the guy was asking about was one of the original threads was he had some rust on it, and he got everything from it's going to change the tone, and those guys, the tone guys. So you put old capacitors in a guitar amp, and it changes the tone. Old capacitors are leaky, so all you basically have to do is put a new cap in with a resistor across it. Okay, you'll get the same effect. But when you don't know electronics and you hear something, you keep passing it around, and there's so many things like that in every subject. And when you go into something, there's a steep learning curve. And I won't say I'm an expert on transformers. I'm just telling you I took a lot of them apart. And this is how they're made. You look at this, yeah, there's an oxide. You measure this oxide or across this, you won't get a direct short. Okay? And then I start thinking maybe if I have to stack two together like this and then measure between them. And you won't get 0 ohms. You get about an ohm. And that's all you need. And with the laminations to get rid of these, not skin effect. Oh no, now I forgot the effect of those. All right, you go look past face. See, when you get old, this is what happens to you. You forget words, and they're picking on Biden for that. Biden's 80 years old. I can just imagine how bad I get. Eddy currents was the word. Okay. Now, what happens with an eddy current is basically a short against the transformer itself, and it causes the transformer just sitting idle with the 110 across it. It'll warm up, and if the eddy current's real bad, it'll warm up even more. So the transformer is wasting power, even though it's not have something hooked on the secondary. And when you hook something on the secondary, that's called reflective impedance back on the transformer. And any current you draw from the secondary has to be able to be supplied as wattage from the primary. You don't get something for nothing. The transformer is about 99% efficient. We'll just throw that number out there. And it's one of the most efficient things is a transformer. And of course, Tesla come up with the idea. You transmit it on wires as high voltage and then step it down, which it was other guys' ideas too, but Tesla got the credit. And people don't understand when Tesla was sending voltage across town, how inefficient that was. And it wouldn't work if it rained. But they passed, that's the other stuff. Go read up on Tesla. And the nonsense that follows him. Oh, he come up with this, he come up with that. Oh, yeah. And he didn't. He knew scientific stuff that other people were doing, and he used it. Same with Edison. Edison stole a lot of things, or used other people's ideas to make a product, and he got the credit for it. And that's how the real world works. You can be cheated out of credit so easily in life, okay? But I just wanted to show you, yeah, this kind, upright. Look at the rust. See, I told you, a lot of this stuff sits in a damp basement in a wet cardboard box, and then people put it on eBay. And I did have one time I bought a modem that was clearly water damaged, and I told the guy, I gave the guy a negative. He started a big fight. He complained to eBay, and eBay whacked me, and they took my 100% away, and it was really bad. Turned out that guy, a week later, he wasn't on eBay. What he was doing was, and they never reinstated me correctly after that, after the big fight. But anyway, he was going around in flood damaged areas and pulling stuff out of the garbage and putting it on eBay. Yeah, he was a real character. Because I called him up. I talked to the girl, and she looked him up, and she says, he's been kicked out. I said, well, and she didn't know how to reinstate my 100% again. I took my account down, and then years later, I put a new account up. But I was selling stuff for people. And I had a really good reviews on it, comment sections and stuff. Yeah, I did really well on eBay. I was selling cards for people. What the hell were they? Not Pokemon, the other one. Oh, now I'm going to forget that. But anyway, I was selling these war cards, and almost the Mox card. I'm thinking that the names of the different cards that I used to sell. And friends of mine had really rare cards, and yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. Well, anyway, I think that's it. You know, like I said, my experience with transformers is taking them apart to get the copper. Okay, that's why, you know, when someone points the fact out that there's oxide on there. Okay, yeah, they put it in an oven, they warm it up, and then they womanize the laminations. Yeah, right. Okay, this is the bottom end transformer. These things were used in radios. They're junk. Okay, but they do work. And they're made out of the cheapest materials. They rust really bad. But, you know, once I threw this stuff in the garbage, took it back out. These have all been cleaned with an eraser on the edges and smoothed with an eraser very nicely. I didn't take the oxide off. And that's what the one guy says. Just make sure you don't mess up the oxide. Okay, he knew. Okay, and I went reading, and it's all repeats of Wikipedia. I won't say it's wrong, but it's a lot of parroting on not eBay, YouTube. Whenever you look something up, somebody will make a statement, and it just keeps getting repeated, and there's no way to fix that. But what you got to do is you got to make sure you keep reading, keep digging, and eventually you'll find someone that actually knows. Oh, and there are a lot of people, oh, I've been rebuilding transformers for over 50 years, and I dip him in. Yeah, he in his brain, he's rebuilt a bunch of transformers. And that's how he read about it in some probably Popular Electronics or one of those, when they show you how to rebuild a transformer to get the voltage you really want. And he read it, and now he's an expert, and he's been doing it for 50 years, but in his brain, he's been doing it for 50 years. But I just wanted to show you, I've taken many of these things apart, especially these, and these are painted on the outside, and this is what it looks like. And some of these really look nice. They're like blued. I don't know if you know what bluing is. You heat the metal up, and when it cools, it's blued in color. Okay, and there's chemicals you can use, whatever, blah, 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 blah. People blue guns and all kinds of stuff. I think the barrels they blue. But anyway, I think that's it. All right, that's it.